Hello, everybody. Let's just do the usual sound checks. And if you can see me and hear me, and if it's clear, I'm hotspotting off my phone. So I'm just hoping everything's working. And you just let me know. Here we go. Thank you very much. Okay, it looks like everybody can hear me and see me. What I'm gonna do is just give everybody else a minute or so before I launch into everything to come over from the end of the Sunset Safari. But it's wonderful to see so many familiar names. Sarah, I'm thrilled that you can't wait to hear about my fourth year, but we had the same fourth year. I mean, it's really sweet that you're here. But yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe you can correct me if I get things wrong. If I've forgotten something, feel free to chime in with a little extra. Sarah's a friend of mine, by the way, but she's joined in along for the ride. She will be coming along with me on the rest of the journey as well. So many familiar names. It's fantastic to see you. Sassy Cassie, who's now changed to Dark Main Lover. That threw me off initially when I was at Juma, when I was at Wild Earth. Lisa, Pangolins Galore, hello. I don't actually know if you want people to know your name, so I'm just going to keep that as Pangolins Galore. Lady Macbeth, Kennedy Ann, Julie, Wombo Girl, Deborah, Maggie's here, Jane, Huma is here, Joanne is here. That's fantastic. Oh, so lovely. Stacy. Pangolins Galore says it's okay either way. Okay, cool, Barbara. Thank you. Janice, Jan. Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to see you all. Thank you so much. It was lovely being back on Drive. It was quite nostalgic in a lot of ways, and there were aspects of it that were nostalgic because obviously there weren't as many familiar faces as there used to be. It was such a joy guiding with Taylor once again. It really was. She is such a special human being. And I think at this point is probably one of the best guides that I know. She's developing a knowledge base that is absolutely astounding. She impresses me every single day. So it was pleasure. Sandy B, hello. It's lovely to hear from you. Yeah, so, right, I think we've given people enough time to join. And I thought what I'd do is just quickly run through what I did in fourth year and tell you a little bit about it. And then we can answer. I've got a couple of questions from social media from people who couldn't be here with us live. And if I miss your question and you you really want me to answer it, I will try and keep up, but just repost it if I have missed it. So, fourth year. Well, it was an experience. I loved it. Now, in hindsight, I loved it. It was unequivocally the hardest thing I've ever done, academically speaking. It was also, if I'm shifting up and down, it's because I did a gym class and my back is very sore. So I'm trying to keep myself upright, but if I start to slouch, that's why. It was definitely the most challenging thing I've done academically ever. I think it was a combination of the volume. Luckily, there was it's a very cleverly designed course. I think I've said that to you guys before in previous chats. Everything ties together so beautifully, but the volume of work was just enormous. And luckily, we could draw on a lot of previous knowledge from the past few years, which is, of course, why they do teach that way. But it still felt like I was on a treadmill that was going too fast for me for pretty much since day one. The very first lecture, I think there were about 2 people in tears, day one of fourth year, because it just hit us like this tidal wave. There's a lot of mixed metaphors in that. So what we did was we had a couple of subjects that lasted for only half the year, and then the second half of the year were different subjects, and then we had subjects that ran across the entire year. So our entire year subjects, and I've actually got the yearbook open in case I forget something, were veterinary reproduction, which I absolutely loved. I loved learning about the different hormone cycles. I kind of touched on it when I was in Juma. It was quite a straightforward module. There wasn't much that could really go all that wrong. And then we had practicals associated with that as well, a lot of which were in our skills lab, which I will tell you about. Our skills lab it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a place for us to practice without having to learn on on live animals. Excuse me. So that means that we have these incredibly lifelike, or at least realistic anatomically, models to practice on. And that includes everything from sheep to cows to horses. We have this beautiful horse that we call Roxy. We bandage her legs and we put a harness on. And we have 2 models of horses with jugulars that we can practice intravenous injections, intramuscular injections, and taking blood, all of which is attached to a drip bag with a kind of colored fluid. I'm getting a bit distracted, but anyway, I feel like you need to know about the skills lab, because part of our reproductive course was obviously palpations in various ways, shapes, and forms, also preparing semen straws for artificial insemination. But these models are so beautifully made. But one of our exams was to palpate a fake set of testes in a sort of a brown sock and measure the circumference. And there's different testes, so you can't just, you don't know which one you're going to get, and there are different consistencies, and you have to follow the whole process. I don't want to reenact it, but there's moments where everything feels a little bit surreal, especially when your examiner's sitting watching you in your clinical exams, and you have to walk in and palpate the testicles and then put a tape measure around it. Also make sure that the bull knows that you're there, even though he's not real or awake, but they're detachable. So you can have different versions. Anyway, so veterinary reproduction, I loved. We had really fantastic lecturers for that, found out some really interesting things. Then we had diagnostic imaging, which I found extremely hard for several reasons. It was fantastically taught. I have no complaints. But the problem is that when you're looking at a radiograph or an X-ray or anything, you need to dim the lights. So all of our lectures were with the lights dimmed. And I have a problem in that I'm like a parrot. As soon as you turn the lights off, I go to sleep. And it wasn't that I wasn't finding it interesting. I just I would sit there trying to hold my eyes open. I fell asleep a couple of times with my eyes open. I dreamt with my eyes open. So there's obviously I'm obviously very sensitive to light and tired as well. So I moved to the front row for the rest of the lectures and sat there because I hoped that my sort of respect for the lecturer would keep me awake, which it largely did. I had a few moments of I found it really hard. I still think I need a lot more practice, because it's a lot of the time they were saying to us, can you see this here? And I'm going, yes, maybe, I think. I worked really hard at it, so it's okay. I think I've got on top of it, but I did find it a struggle in the beginning. But it was a really good way to relearn my anatomy. So that was diagnostic imaging. Then we did diagnostic pathology, where we learned about different diseases and conditions of horses in particular, and then small animals in the second half of the year. So first half was horses, second half was small animals. We conducted 3 necropsies on our own in a group, and we had to select one and then present our findings to the lecturers and the rest of the class at the end of the year. We took samples, and they were very kind in giving us free histopathology on the case that we selected. So we ended up with a cat with diffuse iris melanoma. It was a feral cat that had been euthanized by someone who brought it in. But that cat also had a tumor in the lung. So it had a tumor in the eye, tumor in the lung. It had a pheochromocytoma on its adrenal gland, and lymphocytic infiltration everywhere. So yeah, anyway, it was really interesting. Sorry, I got a bit distracted. Then we had equine medicine and surgery, which I think for most people was the toughest subject. So horses, it was just a vast volume of information, and it was a lot to take in. And especially for those of us that are not necessarily horse people. I haven't grown up with horses. I'm not afraid of them. I can sort of I can ride them, not very well, but I can stay on the back of them. But I haven't spent much time with them. Now, that was a whole different challenge, learning the nerve blocks. I started to dream about horses' lower legs because between diagnostic imaging and diagnostic pathology and equine medicine and surgery, all I could see was horses' legs going over and over the tendons and the ligaments and so on, and their digestive system, to try and wrap my mind around. We learned it in second year, but it's still, you've got to come back to it and back to it and back to it. So that was interesting. And then small animal medicine and surgery was divided into 1 and 2. One in the first half of the year where we did endocrinology, cardiology, dermatology. Dermatology I find quite intimidating. Ophthalmology I also find quite intimidating. Oncology, all in the first half of the year. The second half of the year we did, I think I've missed out a few in the first half of the year, critical care. We did critical care. That's how we started practicing. We all had to get laundry bags and practice CPR technique on them just to get an idea. I think she was just giving us something fun and interactive to do. We'll gain more experience once we get into the clinics. So we know all about how to hopefully manage a critical case. And then second half of the year, we did neurology, musculoskeletal, so fractures, both medicine and surgery aspects of that. The renal and urogenital surgery, which I've got some great quotes from. And I've been keeping a quotes list, by the way. Most of them I cannot share, but I'll try and select some of the ones that I can. Sarah says she can attest to fourth year and the stuff that I've been saying. I think pretty much equines as well. And just generally fourth year. What did I forget? Urogenital. Oh, GIT. So the gastrointestinal tract, the stomach, all of that, surgery and medicine. That's what we did for small animal medicine and surgery. And then we did, what have I left out? First semester was clinical pathology, so blood tests, enzymes, biochemistry, blood smears, all of those sorts of things, which are going to be incredibly useful for us in our community service here, because we are going to have very few tools at our disposal because we'll be out in the rural areas. So it was really, really important that we get on top of that. I found that fascinating, but also very difficult. And then anesthesiology was the second half of this year, which is pretty self-explanatory, which drugs you use, what you need to look out for in terms of complications, how you monitor, what the different parameters will tell you about the state of the animal, what makes each species different from the other, which drugs we use in South Africa, for example. And then what else did we do? Epidemiology was a sort of a last minute tacked on towards the end of the year. So we did quite a few lectures on that, how diseases spread and all of that sort of thing. And then quite a lot of maths, back to mathematics and Excel. We used a lot of Excel. I did not expect that, but I was YouTubing how to use Excel again. So that was something, but I found it, I loved epidemiology. I find the science behind it. And that's actually how I learned about the fact that they tracked the TB outbreak in Kruger to one specific farm in South Africa, which I find phenomenal that they can go back in time and work out exactly where it came from so many years down the line. It was I think it was the 60s or 70s. Don't quote me on that. It was one lecture and I didn't take notes. That was mentioned in. And then I didn't take notes because I was fascinated, not because I wasn't paying attention. And then I said diagnostic pathology. I told you about that. Remind me to tell you about how I messed up that exam. It was spectacular. But it was okay. I mean, it was not a disaster. Just we do oral exams for our pathology, for pathology. We did them last year. We're doing them now again. And in the middle of the exam, I had the nervous sweats. It wasn't going well, not because she was doing anything wrong. I was tired and I was a bit dumb, quite frankly. So I tried to take my jersey off and I got stuck in it. and it's just me and her. And now I'm stuck in my jersey, but I've already taken out one sleeve, so it's inside out. And now I don't know what to do. So I try and put it back on, but now my sleeve's inside out. So I just pull it off, and eventually just it was hooked to my back of my necklace. I just left it hanging like a cape. It was excruciatingly embarrassing. And the last time I saw her in the cafeteria after that, I dove under the table. So yeah. I mean, she must have laughed. She must have been laughing inside. Anyway, what subjects? I feel like I've forgotten a major subject here. I told you about diagnostic imaging. Wait, Faculty of Veterinary Science. I have the yearbook up because I wanted to tell you about next year as well. No, that's vet nurse. Vet. What did I leave out? No, I didn't leave anything out. No, that was all. No, we got it. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I think I got them all. Okay, give me a sec. Let me just see if I've missed anything here. Piece 2, yeah. The knowledge that's inside my head, what I'm really worried about is it feels now like it's leaking out of my ears. The exam period at the end of this year was like, I don't want to exaggerate. I don't want to be dramatic about it, but it was like a bad dream. For 3 weeks, it felt like if you've ever been in the ocean and you've gone into the sea where it's too much for you and the waves are crashing and you have to dive under each wave so you don't get rolled, and then you come back up and the next one's on top of you. That's what this exam period felt like to me. And I think I was not alone. A lot of us were, it's fourth year. I mean, what did we expect? But it was stressful. But I'm worried. No, I'm not worried. It's going to come. Yes, I will forget things, but I will also learn new things, and some of the stuff will come back to me. And as it becomes more applied, that knowledge will be cemented, because that's the best way to learn, is to apply it. Maggie says, wow, poor cat. I know, shame. You know what's weird about that cat, Maggie? Sorry. Is that the cat that we necropsied was that it looked really healthy. They estimated it about 14 years old. For a 14-year-old feral cat, it looked relatively, apart from a very painful eye, looked relatively healthy. It had a really good body condition score. The lady that had brought it in was feeding it and had been feeding it for years at her place of work. And when she saw the eye was getting painful, then she took it in. But yeah, shame, poor thing. It's a pleasure. Barbara, you say you're happy with your vet, but you would love to have me as your vet with your 2 little pups. I'd love that too. I'm really looking forward to building relationships with clients and being able to, for me, being a vet is not just about helping the animals. That would be a big aspect of it, but also because I know what my pets have meant to me in my life, and I want to be able to help people with theirs, whether it's to save them or to protect them or to make the ultimate final decision. I want to be able to support people in that. So I am looking forward to that. Thank you, James. It's been a wild ride. Monique in London, hello. Lisa, you say studying human medicine is hard enough. Cannot imagine studying vet med. Yeah, I think that's obviously the big difference, is the species are so different. I'm sure that in human medicine, you've got a great deal more detail in certain areas that we don't necessarily delve into until we specialize. But yeah, I'm sure there's pros, easier aspects and more difficult aspects to both. But it has been hard. Sarah says sometimes Excel caused more tears than equines. I wish I'd been sharper to that, because she's absolutely right. It's unbelievably stressful. Luckily, my group that I was working with, because we worked in a group, had a couple. There's a lot of us in the vet school. They had previous degrees that were geared towards learning that sort of stuff: animal science, entomology, masters, that sort of thing. So that helped as well, because this actually wasn't their first rodeo, where it was mine. So that helped. Lisa, I'm glad you enjoyed the story about my sweater. It was, I think I've come to terms with it now. But yeah, it was something. It really was. It was pretty funny now in hindsight. Um, dee, dee, dee. And then you wanted to know, Puma, you wanted to know if we study non-mammalian animals. To be totally honest, not much at this stage. We have had a couple of lectures here and there on, for example, chickens. And next year we're going to be doing chickens in a big way, which I'll tell you about in a moment. So next year is all about farm animals, production animals. But no, we've had the odd lecture on birds, the odd lecture on fish, and the odd, we've touched on it in reproduction with reptiles. And we then, if you want to go into exotics, which is what we term it, then that's actually something that you will do more in your clinical months, but also that you could direct yourself into. So it becomes a more elective field of practice. We will learn as we go along, because in South Africa, we are getting more and more specialized, but most general vet practitioners are going to see a bit of everything, especially people in sort of cities where people have pets that are non-mammalian. Barbara, you want to know if I found one part of vet school that piques your interest more than others? No. That's it's a little bit worrying. Well, no, it's not worrying. I mean, it's a good thing, I guess. But I thought there would be something at this point that would make me go, "Ooh, this is for me." I know wildlife is something that I will always want to be involved in, but I want to keep my options open, and I have kept quite an open mind about it all. Just have a sip of tea. My mommy made me some tea before I started, and it's going cold. So no, not yet. I can't tell you any, and there's nothing that I've gone, oh, I hate this either. I mean, I'm probably not going to be an epidemiologist. That's kind of not, I mean, I found it fascinating, but that's not why I went into it. I did leave something out. Veterinary professional life. We had to learn all the laws, which was okay for me. All the laws on veterinary practice, and then policies in terms of identifying animals, moving animals within the country, disease control, all of those sorts of things. So I did actually leave a subject out. Erin, thank you so much for your lovely message. You're right. It is easy to settle for something comfortable. And this wasn't comfortable. It was terrifying. And sometimes it still is terrifying. It feels a lot better now at the end of fourth year, but sometimes it is terrifying. So I appreciate that. It's had its moments. Magic Dragon Wizard, hello. Thank you for joining. So, Sheila, you want to know when I start my clinical practice? So this is what's in store for next year. I'm speaking quite fast because I don't want to take up too much of your time. But next year we do 6 months of essentially what we've done this year with equines and small animals. We then do in production animals, so ruminants, pigs, chickens, and a little bit of wildlife. Not as much as I would have liked, but again, the clinical months are coming. A little bit of wildlife theory, policy. And we also do, let me just check that I haven't forgotten anything, diagnostic pathology, again, same principle, but with production animals and wildlife, how to necropsy them, how to diagnose them, cause of death, and so on. We do One Health, which is all about the way that human health and human well-being and animal health and animal well-being relate to each other, and along with the environmental health, which is obviously a cause very close to my heart. And then we'll also do a research report, but I don't know what that is yet. I guess find out. And then June comes, we do the last set of exams. Well, we have our last day of lectures where everybody all of the fifth years go mad. This year they were dancing on our desks. They burst. Our lecturer tried to barricade them because we were in the middle of oncology and Dr. Mukurera was not having it. And they were playing music and they were shouting, they were partying outside in the corridors. And she tried to barricade the doors. This tiny woman just holding the door while this bunch of fifth years tried to force their way in to celebrate their last day of lectures. Eventually, she rolled her eyes and she looked at us because she did keep them out. And she said, all right, let's just get this over with. So they all came in, bless them. And they danced on our desks and threw sweets at us. And it was all very sweet. At least this year it wasn't water balloons or other things filled with water. Nothing was damaged in the process. Shutterbug, thank you. I think my stint in the bush was therapeutic for me. I definitely needed it. Yes, it was work, but it's not the same. It's still back where I feel most at home. It was an absolute pleasure. Peace to you. Will I have my own? Woo! I've just skipped everything. Oh, my word. I must hurry up. Oh, my goodness. I lost it. Here you go. You want to know if I'll have my own practice or work for someone else? I don't know yet. I don't think that I'm suited to owning my own practice. I don't know that I have the skills, but perhaps that's something that you pick up as you go along. I, for example, have never been the kind of person in my mind that could start my own business. I've always had such admiration for people that can do that. I think it's really brave and it's fascinating to me that there are people who can do that. I don't think I'm one of them. I don't think that's my skill set, but I might be wrong. We can all grow and learn in different ways and pick up different skills. So I don't know yet. Truth be told, I probably don't really know what it entails. So definitely not early on. Also, I don't have the capital to start my own practice. So if that is something that happens, it's going to happen decades down the line when I've managed to catch up with myself. Yeah, Maggie, cats are amazing at what they can hide. I'm losing you guys because I tipped my mouse pad and now I've skipped a whole load. Okay. Sandy, thank you. Barbara, you say I haven't changed. That's very sweet of you. You should see how gray I'm going, though. You can't see it on the screen. You won't see it, especially with the light shining, but my goodness, I've gone gray. I keep finding these full-length, long gray hairs. I blame a lot of things. Dark Main Lover, my favorite theory lessons. Again, I couldn't tell you. There were obviously subjects I preferred. The lectures, because of the lecturers, they make a huge difference. So there's no particular subject that I do find. Probably I find internal medicine perhaps the most fascinating. I love trying to figure out the puzzle of how everything fits together and the physiology behind it. But there's no one thing. Jinlin, any subject I would like to go back and study more in depth or specialize in? I suspect I will specialize one day. I don't know what that will be in. I'm not sure yet. There's a lot of stuff that we learned this year that I thought, oh, I wish I just had a little bit more time to get to grips with this. You know, all the surgeries, all the injuries, the shoulders, all the musculoskeletal injuries, the different ways of treating them, the different ways of treating joint disorders. Love that. But I just felt like it went whoosh past me, and I picked up the most important, because you have to prioritize things like elbow dysplasia, hip dysplasia, those sorts of dodgy hips, dodgy elbows, those sort of things that you're going to see a lot as a vet in your early days. Yes, I would love to go back, and I will. That's the thing, is that I didn't actually finish telling you this. Sorry. At the end of the 6 months of this first year, we write our final set of exams after we've done our whole celebration. Then we do clinical entrance exams where we go back and do a whole load of practical, we call them OSCEs, objective structured clinical exams, whatever they're called. We do a whole load of those to test that we have the animal handling capabilities to go into clinics, and then we enter clinics. And clinics, we do for another 18 months until we graduate. And that involves a system called VetBox, which is a booking system. And it basically allows us to rotate through different aspects of the hospital and our own. So we complete our own learning in that way. So some of it will be private practice, time spent with other vets outside of Onderstepoort. A lot of it will be within the hospital, and you'll do a diagnostic imaging rotation. You'll do an anesthesiology rotation. You'll do ICU. You will do outpatients. So the normal sort of consults that most of you will have experienced when you've taken your pet in for the vet. We'll work in the equine clinic, so with the horses, night shifts, day shifts. All of that will be spread out over the next 18 months after June. I am so excited to be on my feet. You have no idea. And then, I was talking about the fact that fourth year was quite challenging. I didn't mention that I had a 3-month resignation period at Africa Geographic. Simon and I, my boss there, had many conversations leading up to the point, but I did eventually resign. I stuck out. Our editor, Taryn, had a baby. So I stuck out while she was on maternity leave. He's a gorgeous little child. Love him. Beautiful boy. And then I left at the end of August. It was an incredibly sad decision for me because it was a permanent tie to my old life back in the bush. It made me feel like I was contributing something, however small, to conservation. Not necessarily small. Africa Geographic does do some amazing stuff. So I did, but I had to focus then on what I was doing. And Simon has been phenomenal to me. He gave me the flexibility to balance my studies and work and pay my way through. But it was no longer sustainable. And it wasn't even the time so much as it was shifting my brain from one aspect to another. And writing, I wrote 2 articles a week. I might have started to wobble there towards the end, but essentially I was writing 2 articles a week, way more than 2 hours. And my brain was struggling more and more to adjust between the two and to flip flop, and then to go to a meeting and then to go to a necropsy and a meeting to talk. And I just didn't feel like I was giving up my best, and it was time. So it was incredibly sad. Chris, am I going to work with domesticated animals, wild, or both when I graduate? As sort of discussed, mixed practice would be the dream, to be able to do both of those things. I want to keep the medicine aspect as well, and I want to keep that knowledge fresh and up to date. Oh, Lara Moore, it is lovely to see you. Sorry. You did join. It's wonderful to have you. You want to ask about osteosarcoma in cats. You had a miracle of a pro bono amputation for your Nikita kitty this summer from a vet she volunteered for 40 years ago. That is amazing news. That's really, really special. And, what goes around comes around. You volunteered there for, however long that you did. You gave of your time. And as a result, however many years later, it paid off, and I'm really glad for your kitty. I'm sure that your kitty's doing very well on 3 legs, I assume. That's fantastic. I'm going to say that I am no expert, as we've just been over. The only thing I know about osteosarcoma in cats is that it generally has a better prognosis than in dogs. I believe it's slightly less aggressive and slightly slower to metastasize. So that's fantastic. If you caught it and it's been dealt with, that is wonderful news. My friend it was a strange year. My friend, as we were going in to write exams, had to euthanize her dog with osteosarcoma. And it's funny how there's been a few things. We were doing oncology in June, and my very good friend Megan had to euthanize her cat because she had a squamous cell carcinoma in her mouth. That just a week later. It's strange how these things happen. But I'm really happy for your kitty. Sorry, it's going down a dark route. Hopalong Cassidy. Cat City. I love that. Oh, please can I steal that? Hopalong Cat City. I'm going to steal that. Thank you very much. I promise you, I will acknowledge you if I ever use that. Jan, oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Let me hurry up. I'm being slow here. Cindy, yeah. So our school year runs because in the Southern Hemisphere, our summers are in December. So our school years run from January to November, December, and then start again in January. We actually start about a month earlier than everybody else in fifth year because we also, which I didn't tell you about, have a feedlot challenge next year where we have to raise, I'm hoping, lambs. It might also be cows, calves. Dark Main Lover, do I have a business or organization that you want to be employed as a vet once you graduate? I have many in mind, or I have a few in mind. As I said, keeping all the doors open. I also have a few vets who I owe a great deal. They have been incredibly supportive in my journey. One in Johannesburg, some in Hoedspruit, people who've been phenomenally supportive from day one, actually one in Cape Town as well. And I have very close connections to them. So that's when I go to do my private practice, I'd like to volunteer my time with them, not necessarily to work for them in the future. Who knows what's going to happen, but to give back a little bit of what they've contributed to my give back. I have to do my private practice, but to help them in any way that I can and to continue to learn from them because it's I really, really appreciate the kind of people that are so generous with their knowledge and experience. And it's little things. It's not even just necessarily the theory but it's advice on dealing with clients. It's advice on dealing with patients, on managing certain aspects of the career that I don't even know are coming yet. So there are a few people that I do owe. The surgery was performed by a third-year vet student under supervision. Very interesting. It's really it's really different. Thank you, Sarah. It's really different how the learning experiences work between Onderstepoort or South African vet schools, English, European, Australian, and then American, because we don't get that opportunity until much later in our degrees. Sharon, when do I get to the exotics? Okay, such as leopards, so they would fall under the wildlife heading. We're going to be doing that next year. Where am I now? I've lost everybody. Sorry. Sure. I need to hurry up. Grey hairs are earned. I did earn mine. I'm sorry. Marilyn, will my previous degree coordinate with a veterinary degree in any way? I think my previous degree I will always be grateful for because I think it gave me skills that I might otherwise never have had. I think it helped me tremendously, for example, in writing, as I did for Africa Geographic, because I'm not a naturally creative person. I've never been all that into writing, but then it was required of me. And in terms of vet, yeah, absolutely. Whether it's the legal aspect or whether it's just the reasoning skills that I learned as part of that degree. Look, I was not good at law, and there's no question. I was pretty appalling. I really was bad at it, but I do think that there are aspects that I took away. I did get better, and there were aspects that I took away that will help me in real life, in vet, in all kinds of things. Have I done any surgeries? Autumn Rain. I have castrated 2.5 cats, and I have observed many more. But my sole surgeries have been castrations. They're easier. They're fairly basic. So that's the extent of my surgery. I've cut a lot of dead things up, but nothing alive yet. We have a spay week, for example, in clinics where all we do is spays. So that sort of thing. Human wildlife conflict. Yeah, absolutely. Shutterbug, am I halfway through? How many years in total? 6 years in total, which means that I'm 2/3 of the way through. And after that, we have a compulsory community service year where we work for the government, but we are paid and we are allocated. We get to kind of partially select where we would like to go, but it's largely up to them where we go. And then we end up wherever we end up for a year. And a friend of mine who's just done hers now loved it. Said she learned so much, so I think it's a great opportunity, and we are paid. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Some of your comments were so relevant at the time, but then I might have missed some things. Stop doing that. No, I don't need to do an internship. That's kind of our equivalent of an internship, is the year of community service. Thank you, Alaramua. I can share Hop Along Cat City. I love it. Peace to you. Is there a special license to work on exotic animals, or is it the same? No special license. There are specialist vets who do it, and I would be interested to spend some time there. I'm looking forward to it. I do have friends who've worked there, and this is definitely an entirely different skill set that I still need to get on top of. May Blossom, it's lovely to have you on board. Thank you for joining. Are you taught how to be dispassionate about suffering? Not yet. I don't think that that's something that we have really touched upon. And I'm quite surprised by that, because they're really very focused on the welfare of their students and their future vets, because obviously that is an enormous aspect of the profession. But no, it's not. And maybe because it's a very highly personal thing that's very difficult to teach different people. Some of it happens automatically, I think. We tend to have quite a dark sense of humor. I said to you, I'm keeping a quotes list, but most of it I can't share with you for several reasons, some of which is that the jokes are a bit dark. I have found that I have become more sensitized to suffering since I started studying vets than when, for example, I was driving, that I ever enjoyed it in nature, but it didn't. There were few instances that really haunted me. I've become a lot softer, actually. Not that I don't think I was ever hard, but I have become softer as I've gone into vet. I don't know if that's an aspect of my age or if it's because of studying vet, but I mean, I get tearful at strange things, and there's something that I'll have to work on. I think I'll be all right from wildlife experience and just generally. I think that to be totally dispassionate would not be something I would ever work towards, but I would obviously have to work on protecting myself to an extent from the hurt and the suffering and so on. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but no, so far they haven't taught us that. They've taught us how to deal with clients to a degree, but not how we're going to feel. You know what's actually weirdly, there's a useful, and what kind of guided me in that is social media, which I never thought I'd say, because I hate social media. I'm really bad at it for a start. And also I find it vacuous and just weird for the most part. But what I did find is that as Instagram got to know me better, it suggested more and more veterinary groups and individuals and influencers who are in the veterinary field. And they've gradually, apart from the academic information that I found, they pointed me in directions of conversations and resources that vets have. And that I found really helpful. And I try and keep up with the odd discussion. That's often what my time on social media is spent doing, is just reading discussions, comments, various things from various vets. So yeah, that's helped me learn. That's not an aspect of it I want to neglect. Dark Main Lover, will I plan another stint in Juma? Never say never, but unfortunately, I really don't know when or how, because we don't get another summer holiday. Once we go into clinics, I don't know when we will have weeks off, but I think there are about 6 of them in the 18-month period, which is not that bad. But I don't know when that will fall, so I can't plan. James and I will be in discussions about it, absolutely. I would love to come back, but I can't guarantee it. In the same way that I'm pretty certain I'm not going to take another safari, possibly ever. This was probably my last one. Sarah's trying to phone me. Is she telling me that I'm gone? The signal is struggling. Sarah, thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Is that any better? I don't really know what to do about that. No, Sarah, don't apologize. I appreciate it. I'm glad that you called me. How is it fine for you? Okay. All right. So some people are saying that if you reload, it will help you. I don't know why that is. It might be because I've been nattering on for too long. So just reload. It's fine after reload. Okay, great. Was just a couple of secs. Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Much appreciated. Oh my gosh, guys. I'm not going to get to all of your questions. Kennedy Ann throwing so many questions at me. Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't spoken. I should probably be better about these and do them more regularly. I don't, it always feels a bit weird to promote to me. I know that I still want to share everything with you guys. It's just that, yeah, I don't know how often you really want to hear from me. But if you're interested, I can do more of these. Barbara, it's a pleasure. You say thank you for taking your time out of my busy schedule to talk to you. It's an absolute pleasure. And actually, to be honest, this is the first holiday I've had where I am not working. It's amazing since I left Wild Earth, essentially, because I started with Africa Geographic quite soon after that. Jan, I will absolutely explore alternative care in the future. I think there's a lot of ways to marry both sort of the more conventional, traditional medicine and alternative uses. And I think a lot of vets are starting to do that. As long as I can find evidence for it, then I will absolutely combine those sorts of things. Maggie, it's a pleasure. Oh, pangolins galore. Will I have a lot of debt to pay off when I'm finished with school? I hope not. I have been really well supported by people that have contributed to my scholarship fund that was set up by Pam Landy, and which I'm very appreciative of. So I haven't touched, just between you, me, and I guess everyone else on YouTube, I haven't actually touched that yet because I wanted to push for as long as I possibly could working, which I did. And part of the terrifying aspect of resigning was obviously there's rent to be paid and so on. It's going to be tight. I'm going to have a tight 2 years, but equally, if I have to eat baked beans on toast and 2-minute noodles, which are instant noodles, I guess, I don't know if that translates, 2-minute noodles for 2 years to accomplish my dream, then it's a no-brainer to me. I'm happy. I've been really fortunate in how this has worked out. So yeah, I mean, every bit is welcome, but I am yeah, I'm ready for the next 2 years. It'll be tight. My car must not break. My car must not break. My laptop must not break. My laptop is, both of those things are insured, but my car is pretty old now. It must just stay in one piece. Deanna, you wonder if in your community service I'll be involved in wildlife conflict in communities. Quite possibly. Depends on where I'm stationed, but that is an option, or it is a possibility. I also would like to volunteer, because it tends to be a Monday to Friday job. I would like to volunteer on my weekends to help other vets and to learn from them. So that might be something that I would get involved with, whether it's through the community service or through my own community service that I then do in my free time. I would like to do that. Yeah. Maggie, thank you so much. I really appreciate your best wishes. You might have gone, actually. Thank you for all of those of you who are sending me messages of support and saying that you are proud of me. I really appreciate it. Shutterbug, I did sort of answer your question. I'm not guiding. I don't know if I will guide again, which is quite sad, honestly. It has been a big aspect of my adult life, but you never say never. Lilybet, and I'm sorry that I couldn't take you. I wish you had joined. But if I do another one, I promise you'll see it promoted on social media. Lilybet, you get to see my family while I'm at school. Is that challenging? My mom lives quite close to Pretoria, so I'm actually with her now. I'm in her place, so it's not too far away. It's about an hour's bit drive. I don't tend to come back often. I will come back if there's a little holiday or a public holiday and a long weekend. I'll come back, or she'll come to me. So yeah, I mean, I do. My brother is in Germany, so yeah, I don't get to see him. He's been gone for about 2 years. It's 2 years. Yeah, I haven't seen my brother in 2 years, which is a bit devastating, but that's not because of vet school. Lady Macbeth, you know a couple of wildlife vets in KZN. I'm always open to contacts. The wildlife veterinary industry is actually surprisingly difficult to get into. It's quite, I must be careful what I say. It's often useful to have good connections. Let's just put it that way. Laura Moore updating us on her cat's amputation. Peter, am I still trying to make friends with all the beagles? Oh yeah. The nice thing about the beagles is that they tend to make friends with us. I don't know how. They're the best natured dogs in the world. Sarah actually is very into the beagles. She has a particular favorite beagle as well, and I've seen her on the odd occasion walking Sarabi around. There's a whole beagle interest group actually that makes sure that the beagles are well looked after. Kennedy Ann, considering South African animals are exotic to the rest of the world, what's an exotic animal to South Africans? I think we need to distinguish between exotic in vet terms and exotic in normal speak. Exotic in normal speak would be anything that is not endemic to this. So a tiger would be exotic, for example. What's wrong with my brain? A corn snake would be exotic. So there's overlap. Anything that doesn't come from here. An exotic in vet terms is a bit of a general label. It's probably a bit of a misnomer. When we talk about exotics, it's the reptiles that people have as pets, where there's a distinction between wildlife vets, and the wildlife vets generally deal with things like tigers or crocodiles or anything wild, whether it is an exotic species or an endemic species, where exotic vets deal with things like birds, whether they are ground hornbills or macaws, reptiles, bearded dragons, those sorts of things. So there's a bit of a distinction, a linguistic distinction there. Yeah, Alar and Wur, exactly. Need a thick skin for animal work and a tender heart. Sally says that all medics developed a warped sense of humor. I'm taking up so much of your time. I had quotes, the odd quote to give you. For example, one of our lecturers, I can't share most of them. Most of them actually come from the reproductive lectures, and I'll get my video kicked off YouTube. But for example, I hate to break it to you, but you're just a meat wagon for your sodium potassium pumps, which I thought was hilarious. Your sodium potassium pumps in your cells, in your body cells, are basically what keeps everything functioning. So we are just meat wagons for our sodium potassium pumps. I've got a lot though. I can't, some of them. I actually, whenever we had one particular lecturer, one or two, that I just sent James quotes as we were in the lectures, as they were being said, just to keep him entertained. Gallows humor, autumn rain, exactly. Yeah. Okay, this is when the stuttering started. Vineet doesn't like birds. Fair enough. Not everybody does. Vineet's going to be blocked. How do I get rid of you? Goodbye. Should I put him in a timeout? Goodbye, Vineet. How did you find me, Vineet? 24 hours. Go away. Okay, Vineet's gone. What a moron. Jinlin, you want to know if I found my time as a guide helpful in vet school? Yeah, absolutely. Most definitely. Just in terms of observation of animals' body language. I spent so much time. That was largely what we did. Yes, we learned all about the other stuff, but when we were interpreting sightings for you guys, or positioning the vehicle, or trying to predict what was going to happen, all of that is based on our readings of the situations, our knowledge of the ethology, the behavior. So ethology being the behavior, the typical behavior of that animal and their body, and then combining that with the body language signals in the situation to give you an interpretation. And that's proven very useful with big animals. Obviously there are nuances to different animals, but I find it has been helpful just in terms of predicting what an animal is going to do. I think it will be helpful in that regard in particular. And then obviously the more we work with wildlife, then I do have quite a foundation of knowledge. Oh, Joanne, thank you. I'm not taking up your time. Peace to you says you're loving it. Well, listen, I got nowhere to be. So we're all good. Our beard said I should sick the beagles on our troll. Yeah, the beagles would just love him to death. The beagles do not discriminate. The beagles love everyone. Monique, you wanted to know if we study any insects. We've done brief stuff. So a lot of what we did on insect study was last year in parasitology. And I'm now talking not just insects, but arthropods in general. So we did a lot of study on ticks, for example, and flies, different species of flies, bot flies, the lice, mites, all of those ectoparasites and endoparasites that become problematic for animals. So that was a lot of what we studied in parasitology. So we studied it from a pathological point of view. And then we did also, I mentioned we had a lecture on bees last year, and I'm very sorry that I didn't spend more time on it. It was right before third year exams, and it was just, it kind of felt like it went, I still have the notes, obviously. I kind of feel like it went in one ear and out the other. All the different diseases that bees get, fungal infections, viruses, bacteria. I found it fascinating. I just didn't retain as much of it as I would have liked. Angie, absolutely. We need more exotic vets in this world. There's not many. Bye-bye, Shikat. It's been wonderful having you. I've probably missed you. Jinlin, how about feeding animals and their health studies? Yeah, We did animal nutrition in second year, and it's something that's come back into our course multiple times in various aspects, whether it's been in equine or in small animal medicine. So it is something that we do cover. We do food requirements. We do, for example, feeding a sick animal versus a healthy animal, neonates, all of that sort of thing, performance. A performance animal, a horse, for example, in training, versus an older horse that's a field pasture horse with a metabolic disorder. All of those sorts of things are stuff that we covered and we will continue to cover. I suspect will become even more important in next year's courses because it's a lot about farm animals. There, I think that the animal science students will be particularly well benefited because they spent a lot of time studying exactly that. So they know more about it than we do. My friend Megan, for example, has her animal science degree, and that's what she did before she came to vet. So yeah, we do learn about that. What I found particularly interesting in terms of animal diets was learning about the teeth cleaning technologies that they include in some of these really high-end diets. I found that amazing, that you can contribute to the betterment of a pet's teeth in that way. It doesn't guarantee that their mouths are going to be healthy, and she'd just been to a conference on the microbiome. And so the microbiome, just so that I'm not just speaking words and not necessarily with me, the microbiome is all of the good microorganisms, so the bacteria, anything else in there that is in your gut that contributes to your digestion and then subsequent absorption of food, and can be beneficial or pathological. I think most people are familiar with it because when you take antibiotics, you're given probiotics to help restore the balance, or you're given oral antibiotics, or any antibiotics, actually. I found what she was telling us really interesting, what they are finding out about the microbiome and how important it is to so many aspects of our everyday health. I really enjoy that. I spent ages actually talking to Taylor about that when I was at Wild Earth. Sharon, which native African animal? No, man. Why did you do that? There. I'm most excited to work with in my upcoming studies. I'm just excited to start working with animals properly now. You know what I really want to be able to help with in a dream world is I went to a talk during Conservation Week last year, and it was a talk from a vet in Hoedspruit who's now becoming one of the foremost pangolin experts, and she gave us a very emotional talk about these rescued pangolins and what she has seen. I won't go into the details because some of her stories were so harrowing, but the work that she does, I feel, is so important. These poor, innocent little harmless creatures, the most innocuous, innocent little things, and what they go through. I'd like to volunteer my time to help them. That's something that I'm really excited about. But I mean, anything. I'm just excited. Barbara, you say, I hope you get a chance to work with Joel. I would love to work with Joel. I have so much respect for Joel. I went to one of his talks also in Conservation Week, but I think it was 2 years ago. So I love the work that he does. I know him, not well, but I know him. Wildy Cats is asking me about my favorite subject, dermatology. You just found your cat has ringworm. Should you be worried? Is it very hard to clear up? You shouldn't be worried. No. The one thing I will tell you is that it is zoonotic, which means that you can catch it. I have caught ringworm from a dog of mine before, and when I was about 14, 15. My friends wouldn't come near me. It was a terrible time to be a teenager with ringworm. What a disaster. My one friend kept running away from me. It was very embarrassing. It was not problematic at all. It was easy to treat. Just make sure, go to the vet and make sure that that is actually ringworm, because it seems though, from recent research, as far as I understand it, it seems as though ringworm is quite has been quite overdiagnosed in the past. So just make sure with your vet that that's exactly what it is, rather than a hot spot or a localized infection of the skin or something. They will be able to tell you. Obviously, without seeing your cat and being a fourth-year vet student, I really shouldn't be commenting, but I can tell you not to worry. It's all going to be fine. Just take your animal to the vet, and it will all be good. Monique, you said that you were thinking of bees when you asked that question. Yeah, we did get a lecture in it. I would love to know more, but yeah. Peace to you. Yes, cats can get ringworm. Pretty much anything can get ringworm. Our beard, back to the bees. Ringworm to bees to ringworm. You never thought about vets helping with distressed beehives. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know many vets that do deal in beehives, but it is an aspect of it, because we control, or are one of the first lines of defense in terms of drug distribution, so pharmaceutical distribution and preventing resistance and so on. So I believe that there are vets that are specialized in that. I'm not sure how many there are in this country. The guy that lectured us, the professor, the guy, probably wouldn't be very impressed with me. He was not a vet. He did not come from Onderstepoort. He came from the main campus of the University of Pretoria. So I don't know enough about it to really comment, but I do believe that there is a role for vets. Peter Sims, is there anything that I thought I knew well, but now realize I was only touching the surface previously? Yeah, everything. Absolutely everything. The more I'm at that point, the Dunning-Kruger graph, where you think you know everything and then you suddenly realize how little you know. I'm at the point where I have learned enough that I know, and it's actually quite terrifying just how much I don't know. So yeah, there's a great deal that I'm so aware that I don't know everything. I even thought I had quite a good anatomical grasp until we started going into the ultrasounds of the lower leg of a horse, for example, or nerve blocks. And yeah, there's so much I don't know. I don't know that I ever thought I knew it well, but I just now know that I really don't know much at all. Uma, it's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure with you. I lost everybody again. I'm sorry. I keep doing this. Jinlin, you say, so the gut microbiome is well studied. I think it needs to be studied more. That's all I can say. Anne-Marie, thank you so much. Bye-bye. I might have missed you. Lisa, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, Maggie, absolutely. Microbiome is vitally important. Yeah, Alara Moores passing on the ringworm information. Linda, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the donate button. That's really appreciated. Pangolins galore. Yes, of course I'm interested in helping pangolins. They're so innocent. Yeah, kitties can get it. You enjoying all my information? That's very sweet. Thank you. Oh, we have another. You can go in a timeout too. Goodbye. Sorry, I know it's important, but right now you're going away. Thanks, Pam. If you can just send me a message. I missed what the to make the link available in the archived video. Okay, I'll do that. Yeah. Okay, so Maggie's on it. Actually, Maggie's the person you should be speaking to. I'm just a fourth year student. I shouldn't be dishing out any advice. Um, James, you had to check one of your cats for ringworm recently. Bald patch near his tail. Ringworm wasn't it? That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Very easy to treat, also easy to catch. And most of you, I assume, are not teenage girls anymore. So you don't have to worry about your friends running away from you at school. So don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. What is Dark Man Lover? What is the number one thing that causes illnesses on domestic cats or dogs? Oh, I can't tell you that. I'm sorry. I spoke about how little I know. I really don't know very much at all. And I also think it's very area dependent. For example, in South Africa and area, and then dependent on the socio-economic circumstances. Because, for example, in South Africa, Babesia, which is biliary, transmitted by ticks, is a big problem in South Africa. It's something that we see as vets often. And I don't necessarily think that it's something that's experienced in many places where you guys are living, for example. I don't think it's very common at all. But we don't have heartworm. So, yeah, I couldn't answer that. Sorry. It's a good question. It's a question that's beyond me. Yeah. Erin, you say my comment about the feral cat looking mostly good. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think behaviorally, that's the most important thing to remember about cats is that they hide pain very well. So, owners need to be aware of subtle changes in their cat's behaviors that might indicate that there is actually a problem. They hide pain and disease very, very well. Rondo, you say that you so enjoyed the week on Wild Earth with Taylor. So did I. It was such a pleasure seeing you all. It really was absolutely wonderful. Sandy B, if you can use the PayPal address that's in my bio, that would be ideal. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. Oh my gosh. Joanne, do I study much behavior? We did quite a bit in second year, less so now. When we study behavior now, it's to help us with diagnostics of certain conditions. So, for example, the pancreatitis, the signs of pain, the prayer position that dogs sometimes adopt when they're on their elbows with their bums in the air because they've got sore tummies. So it's things like that. What might you see with an arthritic animal, for example, in cats versus dogs? Cats not wanting to jump up on the counter to eat, so they're actually eating less, and the owner's not aware that that's because they're sore. Aggression, fear, changes in behavior. That's same with the horses or neurology, where we've spoken about behavioral aspects of neurological conditions, metabolic conditions, distinguishing, say, for example, what we call stable vices of bored horses. So psychogenic drinking, where they just drink and 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 drink because they're bored, versus an actual condition. So that's where the behavioral aspects come in now. Our beard, yes, we all get inoculated against rabies. We actually had a really interesting course on, or a lecture series on rabies in our pathology, excuse me, lectures. The lady who came to do it works for within rabies control. It is not a huge problem, but it is a problem in South Africa, and it is a very preventable problem. So, and what she said to us was that we are the guardians of rabies in terms of protecting both animals and people. So yeah, we are all inoculated. We also have a plasma donation within the campus where you can go and donate plasma that they can then use to make the hyperimmune serum that they use to treat people who've been bitten by rabid animals. So I'm not allowed because I'm too small, but but a lot of my friends go and donate plasma. Kat, thank you very much. You are late. It's okay. Don't worry. No one's keeping time. Thank you for the congratulations. Dark Main Lover. Yes, of course I remember. I've done it again. Yeah, it's a legal requirement for us to have rabies vaccinations. They won't let us write exams if our rabies vaccinations are not up to date. This is now stone cold. And it was such a nice cup of tea. Catherine, okay, I will try and do it more often if you are interested. Yeah. Peace to you. Said to remind you about a test or exam that I flubbed. That was the story of the jersey. It was spectacular. I was deeply embarrassed. Laura Moore, that was a very good answer. Sandy, you saw a dog die from rabies. It's the most horrific virus. It really is awful. Anything that we can do to actually prevent people or animals from contracting it. I'm not going to go into horror stories now. I nearly told you a horror story. I'm not going to do that. Happy New Year. Thank you very much. Technique. Okay. One thing I'm just going to quickly do. Yeah. Our beard, absolutely. It's much easier to get the preventative than to then be bitten. I'm going to quickly. I have lost it. I have 3 questions from social media that I must just answer because I promised I would. So they've probably by now lost interest and waiting and looking to see if their names were said. But Liz wanted to know when they start letting me work with wild animals, which I have kind of answered. We start from next year, essentially. And then Julie, my favorite experience during my week back at Juma. I can't choose one. I was very excited about the mating giant land snails. Apparently, it wasn't a first for you guys, but it was a first for me. So I was super excited about that. And it was to catch up with some of the familiar faces. Yes, nice to see new animals like Mulwati and Gobswan, who I saw when I was guiding before I came to Juma. But it was a pleasure to see Tlalamba and June and Ribbon and Comet, and yeah, those sorts of moments to me were quite special. And I must say, seeing old familiar people as well was also a real pleasure. Folks, I think I'm going to call it. Angie, you wanted to know if I'll be working with reptiles at all. It's actually something we discussed it earlier. Yes, but probably not very much unless I start to specifically pursue that area. But yeah, I will be working with some reptiles. Folks, I'm going to say goodbye. I think I'm going to say, before I do that, I'm going to say a huge thank you to you all for joining me and sitting through this and being interested and supporting me. And it really means a lot. It's such an invaluable community. What started as the Wild Earth community, but has become so much more. But it's still, Wild Earth is central to that. And I think it's a really special thing, and I'm very privileged and blessed to have been part of that. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. And of course, Happy New Year. Absolutely. We are almost in 2024. Can you believe it? Time has flown. I cannot believe I have finished 4th year. I can't believe, yeah. Anyway, that's not very profound. So, folks, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting to you all. I will try and be better on social media. I promise you that every year. I don't mean to be bad at it, but I just am bad at it. But I will try. And yeah, I will catch up with you. Hopefully not at the end of 5th year. I think I'll aim for a June catch up at the end of exams. All right. Bye-bye, folks. Thank you very much.